This was a show that only ran for 13 episodes. Welcome back to Heroes Next Door. Today is a little special for you. I was surfing YouTube myself and I came across Dr. Mike. He's a YouTuber that does a lot of reaction videos, and he spurred me on to trying to do a video in regards to pre-hospital medicine. He does one that ranks the top 10 most accurate hospital shows, but I looked at multiple sources out there and couldn't come across one that specifically talks about pre-hospital accuracy and pre-hospital shows. So that's what we're gonna do today. But before I get started, do us a favor, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification. That way we can keep building the show. Dr. Mike does a really good job, and I believe his list is pretty close to accurate. There's maybe one or two that I would have bumped ahead or below. If you haven't had a chance to watch that, go ahead and watch that. So I'm gonna give you the list of the top 10 most accurate pre-hospital specific shows. Coming in at number 10 is Station 19. This is a show that is fun to watch, but they deal with a lot of drama inside the firehouse. We all know there's drama, but they really focus in on that, and they kind of lose track of the medicine. They tend to grab some of those calls that we don't normally see in a lifetime, or maybe once in a lifetime, and they bring those zebras into the show and make it all about that. Fun to watch, but the accuracy, whether it's their firefighting skills or whether it's their medicine, just isn't up to par. Just above that is number 9, 911 Lone Star. It falls within that same kind of category. Again, very interesting to watch. If you haven't had a chance to watch them because they're fun, but they deal with a lot with the drama. This one's based out of Texas. They have a couple of providers out there that have really gone off the rails as far as what we're allowed to do in a pre-hospital setting. Pre-hospital blood transfusions, we just don't do those. Putting catheters in and all these things that they're trying to portray just isn't that accurate for what we do. Is it good medicine in a hospital? Potentially, but in the 911 setting, just not really exactly what we're looking for. But it does come in at the low number 9. Above that is number 8. This is 911. This one's based out of California. Again, they are a show that loves the drama. They're going between police, dispatchers, firefighting, and paramedicine. They work well together. They have a good communication. But some of the calls they portray on these shows are just way out there. One was a flood, one was a hurricane or something like that. It's not reality of what we go through. Yes, we go through a lot of drama. Yes, we see some very bad calls, but the first season I watched of 911 was pretty much my whole career. Going above and beyond that, it's very hard to swallow that this is an accurate show for what reality is. The next show that I'm going to talk about, number 7, is Sirens. Now you're thinking to yourself, okay, how is Sirens more medically accurate than any of the 911s? I'm going to tell you this. It's more accurate because of the dark humor that they have. It's the comedy that really brings forth of who we are and what we do. Their medicine is okay, but when we joke about the calls that we go on and how we talk about some of the patients and stuff like that, we don't do it in front of the patients. We all know it. We go back to the station and we talk about, what happened to us. How are we managing those feelings of the situation we were just in? And many times that comes back to dark humor. And that's why it falls in at a solid number 7 for Sirens for the most accurate 911 or pre-hospital show there is. Number 6 is going to be Trauma. This is a show that's no longer showing. However, it was pretty good in its time. It focuses on a flight crew and a ground crew and the communication between them. They do a lot of good medicine, with a lot of different rescues. This is more towards the Midwest of America, out in the western side. The eastern side, we don't really use helicopters as much as they do in this show, but this is reality. I have a friend of mine that does flight medicine in the Midwest, and this is pretty accurate as far as their medicine is concerned, and that's why it falls in that solid number 6. If you hadn't had a chance to watch it, see if you can find it somewhere. Maybe it's on a Hulu or Netflix, but it was a good show. There was, drama, which is why it made it a good show. Realistically, again, this is a list of the most accurate pre-hospital shows I could find. Coming into number 5, I've done a review of these. These are Chicago Fire. And Chicago Fire, for me, falls in at a solid number 5 because of the accuracy of the treatments they've been doing and the firefighting they've been doing. I hear from many people that they have consultants that come on set and really show them. Some of them have even been trained in first responding and firefighting before they do their shoots, which really shows in their show. I just did a reaction video for them. It's the one about the bus into the bus stop. It's getting really good reviews right now, so if you haven't had a chance, take a look at that. But this is why they come in at number 5, because they try to do the best to have accurate medicine for the day. But again, it's drama. They have a lot of drama in the firehouse, a lot of relationships that go on, and they do tend to pull some of those once-in-a-lifetimes into the show. That's kind of where it kind of goes off the rails, when they really start pulling a lot of those zebras out there. Coming above that, for me, it was one of my favorite shows back in the time. This is called Third Watch. Third Watch was a fire show that had EMS providers on it and police. It tended towards the end of the program to start focusing more on the police side of it. But when it really got started, their medicine was spot on. They actually had a character that they named Doc. And the reason they did that is because, he was very good at his job. And it showed. It showed in his medicine. It showed how he treated his patients and stuff like that. So having those character developments really brought it home for me and gave us that accuracy for what pre-hospital medicine is about. Fire service, I didn't really pay attention back then to the fire service. There were a couple good fires in there. They dealt with the emotions dealing with that. Third Watch came in at a solid number 4 for me. Here's another show. Number 3 is going to be Rescue Me. This was a show that came in after 9/11. And many of you may have seen it. It was a very popular show. I believe it was an HBO show. So some of you may not if you didn't have cable. But Rescue Me not only dealt with the reality of the aftermath of a heart event, but it dealt with how we deal with patients. It dealt with how we deal with each other in the firehouse. And many of their shots, whether it was fire service or EMS, were very accurate to how we deal with things and how we manage, and we kind of self-internalize the trauma that we go through in regards to this job. So that puts it up at number 3. Before I get into the last 2, and the last 2, this is where I think a lot of you are going to be like, wait a minute, that's not quite accurate. I'm going to get to that in a little bit. I want to give you a couple honorable mentions. And these ones are a little out there. You may not even seen some of these. I'm a little older, as I mentioned before. I'm on my 25th year. These are shows that really gave us the first looks at what pre-hospital medicine could be and should be. And I'm going to start with Baywatch. Baywatch was a show that, portrayed lifeguards. They are pre-hospital providers, just like us. They may not have had specific medics, but they did the rescues, they did medical treatment, and they were very good at doing that. Again, drama's being in there. You have to have the drama to make the show work. And this show showed all over the world. So many of you are going to know all about Baywatch. Many of us enjoyed watching Baywatch. For me, I put it on the list because their medicine and their rescue techniques were very accurate. One above that is going to be M.A.S.H. M.A.S.H was one about the Vietnam War. It was a medical facility that brought in trauma, so we didn't see the pre-hospital kind of setting as far as ambulance service and firefighting service, but they were not in a hospital. They were doing medicine in an area that, normally wouldn't be done. They're talking about in medical tents. And, what more can we say other than, if it's not for the military, we wouldn't be doing half the things that we do. Bringing back tourniquets, working with IOs is all because of the military services and the shows that, gave us a glimpse on what it's like, and M.A.S.H is one of those. And the third honorable mention that I'm going to talk about is Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman. And you're thinking, how is that even a 911 or EMS show? Well, she was, back in the forefront. She was a doctor that was a female in the Old West. And she would go house to house, or she would go to the barns and treat these people, and then eventually bring her back to the clinic. But she was the epitome of where we started. That's the pre-hospital medicine that got started way back in Old West times. That brings me back up to number 2. And again, this is where our debate's going to go. I'm going to put number 2 as Emergency from back in the 70s. The Johnny and Roy. Love the show. I called it Con Ed for many years, and a lot of the issues they talked about during this show, we still deal with today. whether that's communication with the doctors and being recognized for what we do, whether it was for learning new medicines like EKGs and bringing something new to a field that we're working with. Now we have 12 lead EKGs and capnography we deal with. These were the guys that were cutting edge for us. And that show was very accurate in its time to not only the fire service, but the rescue and the medical treatments. Whether it was a snake bite and he had to put his own tourniquet on, kind of save his own life out in the wilderness, or some of the simple oil refinery fires. And the one I'm thinking of is, when Johnny and Roy just pop open those tops. We all love to do that. And I bet that was set, in many of our eyes of, I want to do that one day. It's not quite that number one on my list. Some of you may debate that, and feel free, put a comment below, but I got one more above this. This was a show that only ran for 13 episodes. And you're thinking, what is that? It was a show called Saved on TNT. And this show purposely designed itself to get medical advice and portray a day in the life. I believe this is where that phrase that all these YouTube channels have used and all these other things have used on that day in the life of a paramedic. It's about a paramedic that has a family that is involved in medicine. His dad is a doctor. He's supposed to follow that doctoring route. He's dating a doctor, all those kind of things going on, but he's very good at the pre-hospital medicine. And everything that he did, in that show was pretty much spot on as far as treatments. Again, he was that cowboy. He didn't dress in his uniform. That's not really accurate. We like to have our uniforms, but his medicine that he did between him and his partner couldn't get any better. So that's why I put Saved as number one, because the characters and the staff used medicine that was the most accurate for the pre-hospital setting. So once again, thank you for watching Heroes Next Door. This is my list of the top 10 most accurate pre-hospital. If you know of any other ones that are out there that I might have missed, put it in a comment below. We'll talk about it. But I'd like to know what you think. How accurate was I? Thank you for watching, and hit that subscribe, hit that notification, and we'll look forward to some more videos.